One of the girls gets close to the protagonist, showing off all her assets to him. Meanwhile, the young man is pinned down on the bed by them and yells for his sisters-in-law to stay away. The other woman approaches him with a very inviting look and a smile on her face. One of the beauties calls him a fool and says that from now on, he should call them wives, not sisters-in-law. The other girl asks her hubby to be a good boy because they were going to teach him a thing or two. Our hero still tries to resist a little, but he's being pressured by the two of them. But suddenly everything changes, and he screams that he's not a fool anymore as his memories come flooding back. With that, the scene shifts to a funeral where we see a photo of Ye Junggo, who passed away at 48. We also see photos of Ye Jungwa aged 43 and Ye Singbang aged 34. The tragedy continues with Ye Xingxing at 38 and Ye Lingshan at 27. Finally, Ye Lingjin appears, who was only 26, and they all passed away on the same day. Inside the funeral hall, we see several men in black mourning the loss of their comrades. Just then, the 3-star General Ning Yu remarks that the enemy's plan was executed flawlessly. Ye Changfeng, the head of the family, says it's not his fault, as the men of his family knew the risks involved. However, the elder realizes they were all attacked at the same time and concludes that someone is hunting his family. Our hero screams in desperation, "Don't take my Peppa Pig," as it falls to the floor. At that moment, the young man trips and falls flat on his face right in front of his grandfather. With a jade pendant he was carrying snaps in two. Immediately after, Yi Fan gets up, hugging his little pig and asks his grandfather for help to pick it up. The elder tells his grandson to hurry up and get off the floor. The family head then says that only he and his grandson are left, and that Fan will marry to continue the bloodline. The old man declares with conviction that the Ye family and its spirit will never fall. The onlookers comment that the heir is a fool, but another points out that he was once the family's Kilin son. At 15, he was already a grandmaster of martial arts and one of the greatest experts around. But everything changed 5 years ago with a car accident that left him in this state and caused him to lose his powers. Someone wonders why the daughter of the Xuan family would still marry him, even if he is a fool, but the girl's uncle stops her from moving forward and introduces himself as Wan Junggo with his niece, Yufei. With a smirk, he announces that the Xuan family is there to call off the engagement. The elder is so shocked that he starts to feel faint. Seeing his grandfather in distress, our hero rushes to his side, screaming in panic. Our hero then asks Yufei why she's making his grandpa upset and if she's not going to be his wife anymore. The elder collects himself and questions the young woman, saying she had always stood by him, even after the accident. The girl is speechless and can't answer the old man. But her uncle chimes in, saying the Yi family is now just an old man and a fool, a far cry from what it was 5 years ago. Furious, the young man's grandfather says he now sees their true colors. Opportunists who kick people when they're down. The young woman then apologizes to Brother Fan, saying she can't marry him. Just then a female voice cuts in saying, "If you won't marry him, we will." Suddenly, the young man's two sisters-in-law appear in the hall, surprising everyone. The onlookers are shocked by their presence, commenting on how incredible the Yi family wives are. One of them introduces herself as the oldest sister-in-law of the Yi family, Yu Linglong. Then the other introduces herself as the seventh sister-in-law of the family, Su Yixu. The two then declare that, on behalf of all 7 sisters-in-law, they will marry Yi Fan to continue the family line. The protagonist's former fiancée and her uncle are completely stunned by this turn of events. The people at the funeral can't believe that the 7 goddesses are going to marry a fool like Yi Fan. Meanwhile, our hero is sandwiched between the two of them, complaining that he's getting really hot. The young man complains that his chest is burning up, and the jade pendant around his neck begins to glow. The amulet then emits a brilliant golden light that completely envelopes him. He then remembers that he has finally broken the 5-year seal and reached the venerable martial realm. But in his past, he was caught off guard by an unexpected attack. 5 years earlier, while trying to advance to the next level, he was ambushed, and his soul was shattered. As a result, our hero was left completely wrecked on the ground after that surprise attack. By a stroke of luck, he had sealed 90% of his soul inside that jade pendant. The pendant contained treasures and scriptures that helped him train his soul all this time. But without any outside help, he had to wait 5 long years for the seal to break on its own. He now realizes that his uncles and brothers died on the same day he was attacked. With his soul restored, he swears he will find the culprits and make them pay with their blood. Back in the present, the young man is still complaining that it's too hot being hugged by them. The ex-fiance's uncle laughs and says he's a fool and that the sisters-in-law are destined to be widows. One of the waifus retorts that this is an internal Yi family matter and he should stay out of it. The protagonist thinks that if he reveals his strength now, the enemy will attack his family with everything they've got. He then gets an idea. He hugs his sister-in-law and calls her Big Sis, saying he wants to play. Yu Linglong then turns to talk to the young man's grandfather. She assures the elder that she is still his daughter-in-law and that he can leave the rest to her. The grandfather is moved by the girl's words and starts to talk about his grandson's ex-fiancée. But Linglong interrupts him and declares that the engagement with Xuan Yufei is now null and void. The former fiancé is startled by the woman's assertiveness and apologizes timidly. Our hero thinks to himself that he won't chase after someone who abandoned him and that he will bring glory back to his family. Back in the present, Yu Linglong tells the other that they will take turns having lots of kids with little Fan. Squeezed between the girls, he says he has something to say. But seems they were dead serious about the matter and aren't about to let him get away. Far away, an extra informs Elder Zheng that the Ye family's funeral concluded without any issues. Inside a temple, the subordinate reports that the 7 sisters-in-law will marry Fan, and the boss orders him to take action. The evil master then tells the same person from the accident 5 years ago to handle it. The villain thinks that he doesn't mind letting him live, as long as he remains a fool. The villain grips the beads in his hand so tightly that one of them cracks. He then orders that if the young man does anything suspicious, he is to be eliminated without hesitation. After the ceremony, our hero's grandfather thanks everyone for coming and asks them to leave. However, Linglong says they want to marry Yi Fan to continue the family's bloodline. The elder is saddened by the situation and asks why they are doing this. The young woman states that the decision is final and that the 7 sisters will take turns accompanying him for 1 month each. She continues, explaining that they need to leave behind many descendants to avenge the Yi family. Yi Fan is shocked, wondering if they see him as nothing more than a baby-making machine. Suddenly, the oldest sister-in-law notices a fluctuation in the young man's aura and questions him about it. To cover it up, the protagonist acts like a child and shouts about revenge, making strange noises. The girl then pinches his cheeks hard to make sure he remembers her words. She reminds him that he was once a genius, and that he can definitely do it again. With a smile, she declares that the 7 pure maidens will follow him for the rest of their lives. But Yi Fan warns her that if she dares to disappoint any of them, he will hunt her to the ends of the earth. He realizes the immense courage it took for them to marry him, even at the risk of being judged by society. The young woman cries and begs him to get himself together to protect the family and avenge his uncles and cousins. Our hero promises that this debt of hatred will be repaid. Yi thinks her older sister is being too hard on him, since his mind hasn't fully recovered yet. But Linglong reveals that she has already contacted the Saint Doctor Lei Qianju to treat him. The grandfather becomes hopeful, thinking that with the Saint Doctor's help, perhaps his grandson can be saved. Our hero notices that his grandfather has internal injuries and needs urgent medical attention. To get their attention, he feigns excitement and says he wants to be treated by the doctor. Yixi hugs him and assures him that he will be cured and will have lots of healthy babies with her. Linglong starts caressing Yixu. She gets embarrassed and asks her sister to be gentle with her. Linglong then decides to proceed with the plan and tells Yixu to accompany Yi Fan for 1 month. As the young woman hugs him, the grandfather thanks them for everything they are doing for the family. The oldest sister-in-law says they are family and there's no need for formalities. The old man gives the boy a little nudge and warns him to treat the girl right or he'll never forgive him. Yi Fan thinks that his 7 sisters-in-law are now his wives and he's going to spoil all of them. But he knows he'll have to hurt their feelings for a while. Just as Yixu says she's going to take him back. At that moment, the woman mentions a business banquet hosted by Zhao Tianlong and says it's a good chance for him to get out. Hearing that name, the young man remembers the car accident from 5 years ago when he was attacked. He recalls the agonizing moments on the ground before completely losing consciousness. At that moment, he managed to see a man with a scar on his face right before he passed out. The protagonist then remembers seeing that same scarred man next to Zhao Tianlong at the funeral. With this, he concludes that the accident was linked to the Zhao family, and his revenge will start with them. The scene then shifts to the Xuan family residence where the young man's ex-fiancée lives. There, the woman's uncle scolds her for not being ready for young Master Zhao's banquet. The girl, with tears in her eyes, replies that she's not in the mood for any party. Her uncle gets angry and asks if she's still thinking about Yi Fan, telling her the Yi family is finished. Tired of arguing, the girl agrees to go, and her uncle tells her to get dolled up for the party. The man thinks to himself that she's young and needs to do this for the good of the Xuan family. Meanwhile, the young woman is on her knees, completely devastated. And with tears in her eyes, she thinks of the protagonist. Elsewhere, the protagonist's sister-in-law suggests he take off his shirt. The woman is impressed with his physique, even after not training for so long. Our hero then asks if his sister-in-law wants a touch, but she shyly denies it. She then tosses him a suit and says it's the formal attire for the banquet. The girl says he can't call her sister-in-law anymore, but Quaife, and he happily agrees. The young man pretends to be a child and celebrates, saying he's so happy with his new wife. The woman thinks about how he was abandoned by his fiancé in his darkest hour. She then vows to give him all her affection and never let him get hurt again. With a warm embrace, she says that from now on, she will be his one and only wife, forever. Our hero praises her, saying his wife Yikshui is the best of them all. But suddenly, the woman starts to feel something strange, and her body begins to heat up. She cries out that her body feels incredibly hot and strange as she starts sweating profusely. Then, a golden energy begins to be drawn into the protagonist's body. Our hero realizes that his special ability is still with him after all this time. He explains that this mysterious flame is the secret to how he reached the Grandmaster realm at the age of 15. Even without direct contact, the flame accelerates his cultivation countless times faster than normal, which is pretty convenient since the lucky guy now has 7 wives. Suddenly, an extra calls out to the woman, saying the family head is looking for her, and in her surprise, she shoves the protagonist away. He informs her that the head and the second master are waiting for her and asks that she come as quickly as possible. Su Yikshu wonders if she's about to be judged by her family, and the man looks uncomfortable. But she appears confident and says she's ready for whatever comes her way. Our hero, thinking that the Su family is condemning her, decides to go see what's happening. When she arrives, she finds a table full of men who are giving her glares of disapproval and asking if she's lost her mind. Su Yikshu then calmly takes a seat at the head of the table. One of the men, second master Su Minghao, yells at her for marrying a fool and dragging the family down with her. The girl replies that she has her own plans, but her brother accuses her of trying to sink the family. Hiding nearby, the protagonist sees that his wife is being blamed by her family because of him. One of the elders shouts that she is insolent and must be kicked out of the clan immediately. And all the other men at the table agree to expel her from the family for her decision. The second master then yells at his older brother to control his own daughter. However, the head of the family cuts him off. Just then, the head of the Su family, Su Honghai, says that he supports his daughter's decision, is overjoyed and calls out to her father, who defended her. Her father reminds everyone that 30 years ago, the Yi family saved them from bankruptcy. He then states that his daughter is not in the wrong and tells anyone who disagrees to leave. Suddenly, all the family members' cell phones start ringing at the same time. One person says a supplier is refusing to work with them, and others receive bad news as well. The family head realizes they are being made an example of. The second master complains that this is no time to be sentimental and that their partnership with the Shia family could be at risk. But the girl's father is torn between repaying a debt of gratitude and dragging his family into the mud. Her uncle then blames her for everything, saying the Su family will be ruined because of her. She says the Shia family will be at the banquet, and she will secure the partnership to protect everyone. Su Yikshu says she will have both morals and profits, and she challenges anyone who doesn't believe in her to sell their shares and leave. And she affirms that she won't stop anyone who wants to go. From his hiding spot, our hero smiles, proud of his wife Yikshu. Arriving at the banquet, he wonders which member of the Shia family will be there to try and help her. Suddenly, a group of men appears, and one of them calls him a fool and asks what he's doing there. Protagonist recognizes Jiao Tianlong, who has come looking for trouble. Jiao Tianlong spits into his own drink and flicks his cigarette butt into the wine glass. Then his goons also start throwing disgusting things into the drink. The guy then offers the welcome drink to the protagonist. His goons surround him, urging him to drink up to thank Brother Long. The protagonist takes the glass and pretends to be impressed by the fine beverage they've prepared. At this, Jiao Tianlong and his goons burst out laughing, seeing that he's become a complete fool. Our hero stops a passing cleaning lady and says the drink needs more ingredients. To everyone's surprise, he takes the dirty water from the cleaning lady's mop bucket and pours it into the glass. Zhou Tianlong and his friends film everything, eager to show the former prodigy drinking dirty mop water. But suddenly, the protagonist grabs Zhou Tianlong by the neck with a grip of steel, and says that good things are meant to be shared as he forces the guy to drink the concoction. The little playboy gags and vomits the disgusting drink onto the floor while his goons look on in disgust. Zhao swears he's going to destroy the protagonist for humiliating him like that. But Yifan plays dumb and asks if the drink wasn't good. He explains that his wife doesn't let him drink, so he was just returning the gesture of kindness. Our hero thinks to himself that dealing with a guy like this is a piece of cake. He's learned a lot in the last 5 years. The playboy orders his goons to beat our hero up. Just as the thugs are about to attack, a mysterious voice orders everyone to stop. Suddenly, Wang Fugui storms in, shouting and asking who dares to lay a hand on his buddy Fan. He wastes no time, grabbing the henchmen by their heads before they can even react. The big guy then smashes their heads together. The playboy in the pink suit is stunned, pointing a finger and stuttering as he recognizes the intruder, asking what the heck he's doing there. The newcomer introduces himself as Wang Fugui, Yi Fan's best friend, and firmly states that he's the one looking out for our hero now. Ye-fan recalls growing up with Fugui and how his friend always had his back during his years of, well, acting like a fool. He vows to repay that loyalty someday. The villains know Fugui is one of the city's top fighters and start whispering, scared to death of facing the behemoth. With two henchmen out cold on the floor, the playboy and his blonde friend decide it's time to make a run for it. But as he flees, the enemy thinks angrily that Fugui won't be able to protect the fool forever and swears he'll still steal his wife. With the threat gone, Fugui mentions he's already heard about all the drama that went down at the banquet. He immediately pulls Ye-fan into a bear hug, joking that 7 beautiful wives would drive any man crazy with joy. Our hero nearly suffocates in that tight grip, thinking indignantly that he's not that kind of perv as he tries to break free. Fugui insists that's exactly who he is, completely ignoring the guy's discomfort with the awkward situation. However, the big guy's expression suddenly changes, and his eyes narrow as if he sensed something fishy in the air. He leans in toward Ye-fan's chest and starts sniffing his suit. Fugui gives his friend a suspicious look, noting his aura has changed, and asks if he's recovered. Ye-fan thinks to himself, "This guy's too sharp." Ye-fan plays dumb with his usual clueless face while the big guy questions what he's doing there. Our hero then looks over his shoulder as something catches their attention. Just then, his stunning wife appears, complaining that her husband vanished while she was touching up her makeup and asks if he's okay. Fugui bows respectfully and promises his sister-in-law that he will protect Brother Fan with his own life as long as she's around. The girl smiles, relieved to see her husband has such a reliable bodyguard, and thanks him for his loyalty. Soon, all eyes turn to the stage where the announcer grandly introduces the arrival of Mrs. Xia, the powerful president of the Xia group. A presenter in a blue dress excitedly takes the microphone and asks for a warm round of applause to welcome the guest of honor. Su Yixu explains that she urgently needs to negotiate a partnership with the Xia family and leaves her husband in the care of his giant friend for now. The president walks onto the stage, waving to everyone with a friendly smile, and his presence commands immediate respect in the luxurious hall. While applauding, the rival in the pink suit smirks, thinking that as soon as he closes the deal, the hero's wife will come crawling to his feet. The woman on stage seizes the opportunity and asks if his presence confirms that the partnership with the Zhao family is already a done deal. The executive replies with class, saying the market is vast and his company is open to proposals from all the major local groups. The villain is shocked by the vague answer, as he was certain the deal was already in the bag for his side. Excitedly grabs her husband's arm, saying her family still has a chance, but Ye-fan stares at the man on stage with a serious expression. Ye-fan tunes out the party around him because he feels like he knows that president from somewhere. President Xia's eyes go wide in total shock as he recognizes the face of the MC who saved his life in the past. The atmosphere grows tense, and everyone in the hall watches in disbelief as the big shot steps down from the stage and walks briskly toward our hero. He ignores everyone, his determined steps only stopping when he's finally face to face with our young Ye-fan. To everyone's surprise, the president takes our MC's hand gratefully and says he's finally found the divine doctor who saved him. The playboy from the Zhao family is furious at the sight, wondering why the heck such a powerful man would pay any attention to a simpleton. Unable to contain his envy, the villain interrupts, shouting that the president has made a mistake since Ye-fan is nothing but a half-wit. He gets closer, whispering that it's best if Mrs. Xia doesn't get involved with the Ye family because they're broke and drowning in problems. But President Xia isn't interested in gossip and yells right in the guy's face, stating with certainty that he has not mistaken anyone. He turns back to our hero and explains that 5 years ago, he was on the brink of passing away when he was saved by this brilliant young doctor. Jumps in, explaining that her fiancé was in a car accident back then, which is why he was left with some mental setbacks. The executive connects the dots and realizes the accident happened right after the rescue, which means his debt to Ye-fan is even greater. Determined to repay the favor, he ignores the villain and asks if Miss Su would accept an exclusive partnership with his company. The envious guy in the pink suit panics, warning that the Su family is blacklisted and that this could tarnish the Xia group's reputation. The president loses his patience and says that if it weren't for Ye-fan, he wouldn't even be alive today, so he isn't afraid of any threats. And to top it all off, he announces loudly that the Su family is now their one and only official partner, and anyone who messes with them will go down. The president keeps his promise, shaking Yixu's hand. She's so emotional she's close to tears, thanking him for this golden opportunity. The guests quickly switch sides, praising Yixu's foresight and remembering that the Yi family still holds a lot of power in the city. Meanwhile, the pink-suited playboy is seething with rage, wondering how that idiot always manages to ruin all his perfect plans. But the president winks at the young lady and tells her she shouldn't be thanking him, but rather her husband, who was the real reason for all this. Ye Fan puts on his best clueless face, pretending not to understand a thing, while his wife stares at him, blushing as she realizes he saved her. On impulse, she throws herself into his arms, thanking him affectionately. Ye Fan smiles, satisfied, and thinks to himself that all this pretending and humiliation is worth it just to see her protected. He soon lets her go and jumps to the president's neck, shouting like a child that Kunkel is a good person for helping. But in the middle of the hug, the old man whispers tensely that he did what he could but doesn't have the guts to offend the big shots behind the scenes. Ye Fan lets the mask slip for a second, and with a sharp gaze, he assures his ally that he did the right thing and won't be treated unfairly. The executive pulls back in absolute shock, having just confirmed that the divine doctor is no fool and has been faking it this whole time. The president grabs Ye Fan firmly and starts to stammer that he is the divine doctor. Ye Fan cuts off the serious talk with a tight hug, yelling like a child that Uncle is so nice and he wants a cuddle, faking his condition on the spot. But in the old man's ear, he whispers in a deep voice that he was set up and needs to keep up the idiot act so he won't be hunted down. Miss Ashia is floored, realizing the 20-year-old kid is a brilliant strategist and decides right then and there to ally with him in the future. He then discreetly promises the young master that he will do everything in his power to help with his plans, no matter the cost. The pink-suited playboy panics, asking about the agreement with the Zhao family, as he thought it was a guaranteed deal for them. Ye Fan gets back into character and hides behind his wife, shouting that the bad man wants to steal his wife right in front of him. The president gets the message instantly, seeing our hero's performance, and realizes this is his first mission as a loyal ally. Without a second thought, he lands a resounding slap across the face of the envious man in the pink suit, who never saw it coming. The president coolly adjusts his tie and asks when exactly he agreed to anything with that useless fellow. The Zhao family hair puts a hand to his stinging cheek and cries, asking why he got hit for no reason in front of everyone. The president glares at him with contempt and says that just for lusting after another man's wife, he deserves a good lesson right then and there. He then calls for security and orders them to kick the playboy out, claiming he's drunk and being extremely rude to the guests of honor. The villain kicks and screams as he's dragged out, yelling that he hasn't had a drink, but no one pays any attention to his useless protests. With the trash taken out, the president invites the couple to a quieter place where they can finalize the deal in peace. Outside, the humiliated playboy is held up by his cronies, trembling with rage for being tossed out into the street like garbage. He angrily wipes his face and blames our hero for everything, swearing that Ye Fan will pay dearly for the shame he was put through today. Just then, his blonde friend approaches with an evil grin and asks if the henchmen are in position for the attack. The villain confirms with a psychotic look that the trap is set and guarantees that our MC won't make it home alive tonight. While the conspiracy brews, the couple's red car glides smoothly through the deserted city streets, unaware of the danger. Inside the vehicle, a curious silence fills the air as Yixu drives, unable to take her eyes off her husband. She watches his profile, illuminated by the night, and wonders in shock how she never noticed before just how handsome he is. The young woman's face turns red as a beet, and she feels her heart race, realizing she's completely smitten with him. Ye Fan maintains his cool, mysterious heartthrob vibe, exuding confidence and charm while totally oblivious to being admired. But he soon turns and breaks the ice by bluntly asking, with a hand on her thigh, if his wife is finding him very good-looking. Tries to play it cool, stammering, but our hero teases that if she likes what she sees, she can have an eyeful tonight. The girl's imagination runs wild, and she creates a crazy fantasy where she urgently needs to have a child with her innocent husband. She grips the steering wheel tensely, thinking how embarrassing it will be if she has to teach the little fool how to, make a baby. Noticing her agitation, Ye Fan places a hand on her thighs and transfers some spiritual energy, asking why she's so flushed. The magical touch has an immediate effect, and Yixu lets out a soft moan, feeling an intense and pleasant warmth spread through her entire body. The car skids on the road as she loses control of her senses from the euphoria of that steamy moment. Ye Fan notices his wife is acting strangely, and she feels a warm energy course through her body whenever she has intimate contact with her husband. Our hero becomes thoughtful and starts to suspect that the secret to recovering his monstrous powers is physical contact with her. The girl, however, doesn't care about any of that, and can only think that she's hit the jackpot, because now her handsome husband is all hers, forever. Completely in love, she hugs him and says that he belongs to her now, and that they urgently need to make a baby together. But the romantic mood is instantly shattered when Ye Fan's eyes gleam coldly as he senses a deadly intent. He makes up a lame excuse, saying he needs to use the little boy's room in the bushes, and asks his wife to pull the car over immediately. She agrees, still a bit dazed, and our MC gets out of the car, waving with a goofy smile and asking her to wait a minute. Hiding in the shadows, the villain watches from afar and can't believe his luck, seeing the idiot wander off alone, away from the safety of the car. With a sinister grin, the playboy orders his henchmen to follow him and take him out in the dark forest, without leaving a trace. Under the light of the moon, a group of guys is searching the dark woods with their flashlights. The leader of the crew is furious, yelling about how their target just vanished so quickly. That's when he spots a guy in a suit just standing nearby. The villain grabs the young man's shoulder, thinking he's caught the runaway, and says, "You're not getting away." But when the freckled young man turns around, he reveals that the man grabbed the wrong person. Frustrated, the thug lets the kid go and asks if he saw anyone dressed the same way pass by. The young man points off into the distance and lies, saying the target ran behind the rocks. The whole gang runs in the direction he pointed, while their boss mutters about what he has in store for the girl once he catches her. As soon as they're gone, a sinister smile spreads across the face of our disguised MC. Leone watches coldly as the idiots run deeper into the woods, following the false lead. Suddenly, the leader stops, sensing something is wrong, and realizes he's fallen for a cheap trick. Our hero appears right behind him, saying it wasn't a trick, but that the runaway did leave a message. The criminal turns around and demands to know what it was. With a murderous glare, Leone reveals the message was for him to wipe every single one of them out. The thug freezes in fear at that psychotic look, barely able to react. Without wasting a second, our MC moves at an insane speed, taking down the 3 henchmen in the blink of an eye. Terrified by this raw power, the leader backs away, asking who the heck this mysterious guy is. Our hero then stops, asking if they're really so dense they don't recognize him. At that moment, he starts pulling at the skin on his face, ripping off the disguise he's been wearing this whole time. Seeing his enemy's true face, the thug turns pale, realizing this is the very same Yi fan he'd always looked down on. Pure terror fills his eyes as it finally dawns on him, he messed with the wrong guy. It's a trembling finger, accusing the young man of pretending to be slow all these years. His mind shatters as he realizes the kid is a martial arts master and that his life is officially over. With a grim smile, Leone stares down his prey and warns him that their sins go way beyond just cheap insults. Then he points to the goon with the scar, recognizing his face from the scene of an old accident. Desperate, the henchman starts crying and begging for mercy, blaming everything on the young master, who gave the order. Ignoring the sniveling, our MC concentrates an insane amount of energy into his hand, causing it to burst into flames. Without a shred of pity, he unleashes a flame-charged strike, instantly turning his enemy to ash. Witnessing that was too much for the leader, who falls on his butt, and, well, let's just say he has a little accident out of sheer terror from that wicked technique. Leone calmly explains that his vital energy has the attribute of incinerating fire. Our hero reveals that all this incredible power comes from a mystical flame burning within his own body. Terrified, the villain begs for his life, spilling that he was forced into it by the powerful Liu family from the capital. Hearing that surname, our MC is stunned. That family used to loyally serve his grandfather. An image of the old leader, Elder Liu, flashes through his mind. He can't believe that loyal subordinate would stab him in the back. The thug keeps talking, saying the final order came from someone even bigger and more powerful in Shangjing. Losing his patience, our MC grabs a guy by the throat, demanding to know who this mysterious big shot is. Barely able to breathe, the coward swears he doesn't know the name, that he just follows orders passed down the chain of command. Lifted by his neck, the gang leader cries and promises that if he's spared, he'll never tell a soul. Leone asks sarcastically if the guy can really keep such a serious secret. The enemy swears up and down that he can, thinking he's finally convinced the monster to let him go. But the answer comes in the form of an energy blast that consumes his body in an instant. As the ashes fall, our MC says coldly, "It's a shame, but I don't trust the living." Now, knowing who the traitors are, he decides to eliminate each rival family, one by one. Back at night, we see our protagonist watching his wife running worriedly through the dark forest after him. The waifu looks terrified, desperately screaming for him, since she usually never leaves the house for dangerous places like this. Ye-fan watches, touched, realizing that his girl overcame her fear of rats and the dark just to come after him. So, he steps out of the shadows with a smile to calm her down, letting her know everything's okay and that he's already finished his business. She sighs in relief seeing her husband is in one piece, but worriedly asks why he took so long out there. To break the tense mood, the guy points to the ground and yells, pretending there's a giant rat right at her feet. The girl jumps into her husband's arms, scared out of her mind, and asks where the so-called giant rat he mentioned went. The sly guy takes his chance to embrace his waifu, saying the creature already ran off, and even compliments how good she smells. At that moment, she turns beet red, realizing she was tricked, just so he could slyly get her in his arms. Then our hero picks up his wife bridal style and says he'll carry her to the car to ensure the fair lady's safety. As the couple leaves in a romantic mood, the scene cuts to some lookouts who were hiding in a car. The spies are confused seeing the protagonist walk away unscathed and wonder what happened to the missing young Master Zhao. Desperate, they run to the spot, shouting for their boss, but they only find an empty space and no sign of him or his goons. The news travels fast to the Zhao family mansion, where chaos erupts with the heir's sudden disappearance. The head of the Zhou clan is furious and roars, demanding to know how it's possible for two living people to just vanish into thin air like that. His subordinates tremble, explaining that 100 men searched the park and the river 8 times without finding a single trace. They also report that a mysterious expert took everyone down in 2 minutes and abducted the targets with extreme ease. Breaking out in a cold sweat, old Dicheng wonders if the Yi family hired someone or if the ghosts from 5 years ago have returned. He then screams orders for everyone to get back to the search and to report immediately if they find any clues. Walking down the hall, the villain laments the disappearance of his right-hand man and regrets not having gotten rid of Yi Fan years ago. Opens his office door. He freezes completely, because he sees someone sitting calmly at his desk, waiting for him. The villain points a shaky finger and yells in shock, demanding to know who the heck that intruder in his office is. Ye Fan gives a sinister smile and replies that he's the person the old man tried to get rid of 5 years ago. The old man is stunned as he realizes our protagonist isn't a fool and was actually playing dumb the whole time. The traitor then panics and tries to scream for his men to save him from this monster. However, an object slices through the air toward him before he can make any loud noise. At that moment, a pen flies through the man's hand, pinning him to the wall and making him scream in pain from the surprise attack. But the scream is muffled as something immediately covers his mouth, preventing any sound from escaping. Ye Fan coldly warns him that if he answers everything truthfully, he might suffer a little less in the process. Meanwhile, the goon struggles, trying to get the cloth off his mouth, barely able to breathe from sheer terror. Our hero questions if Tianlong met his end at his hands and mocks him, asking why he'd keep a killer around for the new year. Sweating bullets, the old man stammers that they were just following orders from higher ups and that they weren't to blame. Out of patience, our protagonist cuts him off and demands to know who, besides the Wang and Li families, serves the Lu family. The hostage confesses it's only those two but warns that there are hidden experts monitoring the Yi clan. Ye Fan presses him about who the big boss behind the Lu family is, and the old man says he only knows of a certain young Master Zhou. He warns that their power is immense, that they even decide who the city's governor is, saying it's impossible to beat them. Our hero grabs the old man by the neck, telling him not to worry about that, and the old man screams he has one more clue. And he orders the guy to spill what he knows, and fast. The traitor reveals they attacked the Yi family not just for power, but because they were looking for a very specific item. Hearing this, our protagonist tightens his grip on the man's neck and demands to know what this object is, right now. However, the old man starts drooling in terror, swearing he has no idea what it is, as he's just a pawn in their game. Ye Fan then loses his patience and says that if he doesn't know anything useful, then there's no reason for him to keep breathing. With a swift move, our hero releases a golden energy and eliminates the enemy on the spot, leaving no trace behind. The next day, the city is in shock with the news that the Zhao family was completely wiped out during the night. An elder comments that some powerful expert must have done this so cleanly to get revenge on that clan. Leng Feng, the captain of the guard, analyzes the situation, recalling that the Jiaos caused the young master's car accident. But the old man feels that's not the whole story and orders them to keep investigating, because the Ye family is still in real danger. Falls over the Su family residence. Yi Fan is lying there, figuring the tea about the Zhou family must have already spilled by now. Right then, he hears a shy female voice calling out to him. Over, he spots Yixu rocking a gorgeous dress, asking if she looks good. She's thinking it's time to give herself to our boy, and maybe teach him a thing or two. Our MC hits her back, saying she's the prettiest one out there, and Yixu gets all happy with the compliment. Still totally blushing, the lady walks up to the bed and invites Yi Fan to play. He plays dumb and asks exactly what they're gonna do, making her even more flustered. So the young lady drops the bomb that they're gonna sleep together so she can have his baby. Ye Fan jokes that they're already sleeping, but she says that's not the kind of sleeping she means. Our hero asks how it works then, and Yixu gets all clumsy, not knowing how to explain it. Full of embarrassment, she gives him a little slap and calls him annoying. Right after, the girl moves in closer and says first they gotta take their clothes off. Our boy starts stripping down and asks why she isn't taking hers off too. He complains it's totally unfair and she needs to do it too, leaving her in a panic. Yixu grabs our MC's face firmly. She kisses him and tells him to just follow her lead. And just like that, the two start getting super cozy and intense in bed. Yixu starts feeling really hot and gets all sweaty. An energy wraps around them, and our hero realizes his strength is leveling up again. He thinks this is awesome and figures Yixu's power must have evolved too. Meanwhile, outside, the guards hear everything and start chatting about the kid's energy. One of them says Miss Su is going to be blessed and that they make a perfect couple. Back in the room, our boy thanks Yixiu for never bailing on the Yi family. Yi Fan then declares that from today on, she's his woman and he's going to protect her from everything. We cut to the Su family mansion, where someone arrives looking for his pops. The young guy asks if his dad thinks Yi Fan was the one behind the attack on the Zhou family. The old man gets furious and tells his son to shut his trap immediately. He says the Yi family are their benefactors and they'd be happy if Yi Fan recovered. The guy gets worried and wonders what's going to happen if our hero finds out the truth. The guy keeps yapping about the Yi family's assets, but his dad slaps him across the face and tells him to shut it. The old man says he already looked into it and it wasn't our hero, but someone who came back to get revenge on Zhao Decheng. The son is shocked and asks who this Grandmaster level expert could be. The old man gets thoughtful for a second while the image of the master pops into his mind. Sujin then reveals that the man's name is Fan Yi. The guy says he's never heard that name, but his dad insists that the guy's skills are what matter. The young man starts sweating bullets and seems to get what his dad is planning. The father then says they need to find this Fan guy to handle some important business. The guy realizes his dad wants to hire the expert to wipe out our MC and the whole Yi family. All hyped up, the son runs off to carry out the order while the father watches. With an evil look, the old man thinks Yi Fan's lucky days are numbered. The next morning, we see our hero and Yixiu snuggled up in bed after the night they had. Yixiu looks like she's on cloud 9, with a smile on her face as she rests in Yi Fan's arms. But the romantic mood is shattered when a maid knocks on the door, saying he has a visitor. Startled, Yixiu wakes up, but our boy holds her and pulls her right back into bed. Even so, Yi Fan couldn't care less about any visitor. He just wants to spend more time with her. Yixiu gets all flustered by the situation but asks who could possibly be looking for him so early. The maid replies that it's Miss Xuan Yufei, and the two of them are completely shocked by the news. Filled with jealousy, gives our MC a sharp pinch on the cheek, making him yelp in pain. She glares at him and points out that his ex-fiancé is right outside waiting for him. Our hero seizes the opportunity and playfully asks if his wifey is getting jealous, but she denies it on the spot. So, he dares her to go down with him to see Xuan Yufei, since she's supposedly not worried at all. The couple then gets dressed and leaves the room arm in arm to meet their unexpected guest. Outside, they find the ex-fiancé standing there, looking none too pleased as she stares at them. Xuan Yufei feels a pang of sadness, seeing what a beautiful couple they make together. Yixiu immediately goes on the defensive, asking why she came back and if she's here to make fun of Yi Fan again. Yufei steps closer and says she came to apologize, explaining that everything was her uncle's fault. RMC then thinks to himself that she really does have a weak personality and was probably forced into it. A luxury car pulls up, and a young man calls out Xuan Yufei's name. Right after Li Yunyang, the master of the Li family, gets out of the car, having been looking for her. Li Yunyang then grabs her by the arm and invites her to the movies, leaving Xuan Yufei completely surprised. She gets annoyed and asks who told him she was here, already suspecting her uncle. Fan is furious because he was just about to forgive her, but it looks like she chose the Li family, his enemies. Yixiu. He must be heartbroken. She then steps in front of him and accuses the ex-fiancé of coming here just to show off, not to actually apologize. Yixiu declares that she is Yi Fan's woman now and tells Xuan Yufei not to bother him anymore. At that moment, to make things crystal clear, she turns to Yi Fan. And without a second thought, Yixiu plants a huge kiss on him right in front of everyone. Xuan Yufei is utterly shocked, realizing that the two of them have already reached a whole other level of intimacy. The kiss continues, leaving his ex-fiancé even more speechless and unable to react. Then, with a victorious look, tells Xuan Yufei to leave if she knows what's good for her. At this, our MC wraps his arm around his wife and says that since she didn't want him, he has someone else now. He even taunts her, saying he has 7 wives and that they are all much more beautiful than she is. Xuan Yufei is devastated by his words but says that if he's happy with her, then that's all that matters. With tears in her eyes, the ex-fiancé wishes them happiness and leaves, completely heartbroken. That Li Yunyang guy is left totally confused, calling after her, trying to understand what just happened. But Xuan Yufei angrily shoves him away and tells him to get lost, making him drop the bouquet of flowers on the ground. Xuan Yufei runs off, and her wannabe suitor chases right after her, trying to catch up. Our hero just watches and thinks that some mistakes, once made, can never be undone. Over at the Liu family mansion, someone is asking if this Xia Hao guy has lost his mind. Li Ran, the head of the family, is furious that he sided with the Yi family and cooperated with the Su group. One of the subordinates explains that the reason was to repay a life debt that he owed. The boss doesn't care about the reason and says that to make an example of them, the Su family must be eliminated. He orders them to join forces with the Wang and Li families to destroy the Su group and ruin Yixiu's reputation. With a wicked smile, he thinks to himself that this time, he'll see who dares to side with the Yi family. Fugui says goodbye to Yikshu at the mansion and promises to take great care of our guy. Meanwhile, our MC's wife tells Yi-fan to be good, saying she'll come get him after she gets off work. Our boy waves back to his wife, telling her not to forget to pick him up later. And just like that, the two of them head away from the mansion. But the second they're alone, Fugui tells our hero to drop the act, since no one else is around. He gets all excited and compliments his friend's performance at the banquet, playing the fool to trick everyone. On top of that, the big guy asks if the downfall of the Zhao family was his doing too, and Yi-fan thinks to himself that his friend is way too sharp. But our hero's expression turns serious. He knows his family has a ton of enemies, and he can't get Fugui tangled up in all of it. So, he goes back to playing dumb, showing his empty pockets and leaving his friend completely baffled. Fugui gets frustrated but says that if he doesn't want to talk, that's fine, he'll just play along and pretend he believes he's still a simpleton. Changing the subject, he says he's taking our hero to a place they used to go to reminisce about the good old days. The friend immediately pictures a spot filled with gorgeous women fawning all over our MC. Yi-fan, however, starts to panic, thinking he can't go to that kind of place. He's a married man now. But Fugui just brushes off his friend's panic and says he'll find out when they get there. And so they finally arrive at their destination, a large building downtown. Fugui then asks if our hero remembers the place, mentioning they used to come here all the time. Yi-fan is shocked to realize they're actually at the city's underground black market. This place has 3 subterranean levels and is the biggest in the city, with all sorts of rare treasures that money can buy. Our boy gets all fired up, thinking this is the perfect chance to snag some sweet loot. Seeing this, Fugui smiles, his friend remembers the way, which proves he's truly made a recovery. But Yi-fan knows his friend is sharp and, despite his looks, has probably figured out his true intentions. With that, the two begin to walk through the crowded market. The big guy offers to buy whatever our MC wants, but he doesn't think there's any good stuff in this section. That's why he decides to use a secret art he learned, the strange demonic eye. This ability allows him to see the true essence of things, making it perfect for spotting hidden treasures. With his special eyes, he quickly spots a gem and a golden orb emanating incredibly powerful auras. That orb is a vitality pill, a rare item that helps one reach the Grandmaster level. Fugui picks out a purple crystal for Yi-fan's wife, but our hero thinks the pill is the perfect gift for his friend. So, our MC picks up a worthless-looking rock and pretends he wants to take it home to play with a kitten. The vendor then says that if he buys any other stone, he'll throw the little one in for free. The vendor thinks the rock is only good for propping up a wobbly table leg, and that ripping off this simpleton will be a piece of cake. But our hero asks him to wrap up the rock along with another crystal, announcing that old man Wang is footing the bill. Fugui is confused and says his wife is going to be mad if he brings that useless rock home. So our MC reminds him of his promise, and his flustered friend reluctantly agrees to buy everything. A moment later, Yi-fan hands the black stone to Fugui and tells him that the gift is actually for him. However, as they're walking, they overhear a conversation about a powerful expert being hired to take down the Yi family. Our hero is both shocked and furious to hear this unexpected news about his enemies. Two guys are talking about what a shame it is the Yi family was completely wiped out for threatening the master. Our hero overhears this and, with a serious look, wonders if his enemies are already making a move again. But he thinks that now that he's awakened, he won't let the mastermind behind it all succeed. Seeing the change in his friend, Fugui gets worried and asks what's wrong. But Yeon goes right back to playing dumb and suddenly offers the rock he bought for his friend to try. Fugui immediately refuses, saying that's a rock, not a piece of candy, but our boy insists. So our hero tries to shove the rock into his friend's mouth, who begs him to stop messing around. And with the force of his bite, Fugui surprisingly ends up shattering the rock into several pieces. To his shock, he sees that a vitality pill was hidden inside that rock. This pill increases the chance of leveling up by 70%, and he wonders how it got in there. Suddenly, Yeon's phone rings, and his friend praises him for being smart enough to find the item. On the call is President Xia Hao, who wants to introduce some important people to our hero. Half an hour later, they're outside the Royal Hotel, and the president arrives for the introductions. He then introduces 2 members of the Xia family and a man named Li Hu for, let's call it, shady business. This man is Li Hu, the kingpin of Cloud City's underworld, and he puts himself at young Master Yi's disposal. Then the president introduces Governor Sun Qian, who offers to help our hero with whatever he needs. But our hero keeps up the goofy act and tells everyone that his friend Fugui ate a rock. This makes the governor suspicious, and he thinks the whole situation is pretty weird. Fugui then plays along and thanks them on his friend's behalf, while our boy pretends he just wants more food. But the mood is shattered when a guy rushes in with bad news, saying that Wu Lolong's men are after Yikshui. Hearing this, our MC's aura explodes with rage, sending everything on the table flying. His friend Fugui and President Xia Hao are in shock at the sudden change in attitude. Even Li Hu and the governor are startled by the pressure he suddenly unleashes. With a death glare, our hero gets furious and wonders how they dare touch his woman. Fugi is floored by this powerful aura and realizes his friend was faking it the whole time. Our boy then leaps from the table and yells that he's going to save his wife, Yixu. Immediately, President Xiahao grabs his phone and orders everyone to mobilize and protect the girl. Meanwhile, on the city streets, we see Yixu's car being chased by several other vehicles. Inside the car, her bodyguards are tense because they can't seem to shake their pursuers. The girl, who's already injured, screams at the driver to keep going and not to stop for anything. All beaten up, Yixu yells that she'd rather face the end than be humiliated by those guys. Suddenly, her car is slammed into by another vehicle at high speed. The driver is furious and yells that the enemies rammed them on purpose. From the impact, the white car starts spinning uncontrollably in the middle of the street. And to make things worse, another car comes speeding towards them, and the bodyguard yells to watch out. They end up cornered in a dead-end alley, and the driver says she needs to get away. Refuses, saying it's too dangerous. Her men insist, wanting to repay the Su family's kindness. So the two bodyguards get out of the car, ready to fight, and tell her to get out of there, fast. The girl runs, telling them to be careful and promising she'll get help. But as she's running, one of her protectors is hit, and she looks back in shock. Right after, two goons with knives block her path and tell her she's not getting away. Is now completely cornered. But while our main character is at the black market, the scene cuts abruptly to his wife, Yixu, who's in some serious trouble. One of her bodyguards desperately yells for the thugs to back off and let the young lady go. He's shocked to see his comrades being easily taken down by the enemies. Then, the leader of the henchmen, known as Wu Lolang, shows up and complains that they haven't secured the targets yet. In the blink of an eye, the remaining thugs surround and take down Yixu's last bodyguard. Wu Lolang approaches her with a malicious grin and tells her to stop fighting and just have some fun with him. One of his men reminds him that the higher-ups' order is to eliminate her, and that torturing her would earn him some major props. Even injured and scared, Yixu grabs a sword and yells that she won't let them lay a single finger on her. The henchman with the mohawk steps forward, saying he'll hold her down for the boss to have his fun. However, she surprises him with a swift move, striking him with the sword before he can even react. The man panics and screams in pain, wondering how the heck she knows kung fu. Shu herself is surprised by her own strength, questioning how she suddenly became so strong and fast. She then remembers the night she spent with Yi Fan and the energy that flowed through her body. With this realization, Yixu is certain that if she got stronger, Yi Fan must be even more powerful and is just playing the fool. Annoyed by this turn of events, the boss orders his men to take her out at once to avoid any more trouble. The henchmen close in on Yixu, who, despite being cornered, yells at them not to come any closer. However, one of the men attacks with full force, knocking her weapon far away. On the ground with nowhere to go, she faces the three thugs as they prepare to deliver the final blow. Tears in her eyes, Yixu mentally says goodbye to her beloved husband, Yi Fan. And just like that, one of the henchmen, with a wicked grin, delivers a final blow against the young woman. But suddenly, a familiar voice shouts for his wife not to be afraid, because he has arrived to save her. At an unbelievable speed, our main character appears and takes down all the thugs with a single strike. Yixu can barely believe what just happened, as the attack that was meant to end her life never landed. Soon she sees Yi Fan standing in front of her like a true hero who just saved her from danger. He hugs her tightly and asks if she's okay, and Yixu, still in shock, asks if she's dreaming. The young woman realizes he has awakened and is overjoyed, because now the Yi family is finally safe. Yi Fan smiles at her but thinks to himself that he can't reveal the whole truth about his recovery just yet. So, he goes back to playing dumb and asks what she's talking about, leaving Yixu confused. However, the leader of the thugs, Wu Lolang, recovers from the shock and furiously yells that he's going to finish them both off. Faced with the threat, Yi Fan's expression changes completely, revealing his true killer intent. Yixu's blade in hand, our hero gets ready for a fight. Acting like a furious child, he shouts that they're bad people and they're not going to hurt his wife. He charges straight at Wu Lolang. The brute is completely stunned by the absurd strength coming from someone he considered a fool. With a threatening glare, Yi Fan grabs the guy, showing that playtime is over. He then throws the leader of the thugs and yells for all the bad people to get lost. Right after, our main character unleashes his anger on another henchman, beating him without mercy. The commotion catches the attention of Fugi's men, who watch, completely flabbergasted. Jaw drops, unable to understand where all of her husband's strength came from. It turns out that Fugi and his men had just arrived and rushed over to see what was happening. They find the thugs on the ground and are shocked to see the damage Yi Fan did all by himself. Fugi looks at his friend and wonders if he's finally going to reveal the truth to Yixu. However, the young woman believes he hasn't regained his memories, but simply acted on instinct to protect her. Understanding the play, Fugui gives him a thumbs up and thinks about what a great actor his buddy is. Yi Fan scolds him, telling him to quit messing around and help him with something important. So Fugui grabs one of the villains and demands to know who gave the order to attack his sister-in-law. Terrified, the goon confesses that the young Master Wong hired them to attack Yikshu and begs for his life. Upon hearing this, Yi Fan becomes furious, as he knows the Wong family works for the Liu family, his greatest enemies. Our hero realizes the Liu family attacked to crush the Yi family once and for all. He figures out that just taking down the Zhao family wasn't enough. Worried, he pulls Yikshu into a hug and asks if she's alright. The panicked girl begs him to save Captain Zhao. Yan points to the injured, and Fugui shouts for them to be taken to the hospital. And just like that, they get there in a flash. In the hospital room, Yan is next to the captain, who's all wrapped up in bandages. He wakes up and worriedly calls out for the young miss. But our hero calms him down, saying Yikshu is fine and was just a little shaken up. But suddenly, the captain notices something, and his eyes go wide with shock. He then points at Yan and yells that he's no longer a fool. Our protagonist confirms he's awakened, but asks him to keep it a secret. The captain promises to keep his secret while Yan helps calm him down a bit. Our hero says the captain is a loyal guy, and he needs someone he can trust. So, as a reward, he's going to help him break into the martial realm. Then our hero unleashes his golden energy to help the injured man. This energy surrounds the captain, who yells out as an insane heat spreads through his body. And with his eyes wide, he can't believe what's happening. Because in an instant, all his injuries simply vanish. Yan explains that he has now entered the martial realm, and is no longer just some nobody. Grateful, the captain bows and swears to protect Yikshu with his own life. Our boy even hands him a vial of pills to help with his cultivation. Meanwhile, in another mansion, someone reports that the Zhao family has been wiped out. This is Xu Dong, who's complaining that without the Zeos, they can't attack the Yi family anymore. His father, Zhu Jian, explains that their company is full of people loyal to the Yes. So, the young man suggests they hire someone to take out the old man and the fool. He's heard of a grandmaster named Fan Yi who would take the job. The father is worried, but Zhu Dong assures him that Fan Yi is discreet and will get the job done. Back at the hospital, Yan is walking down the hall when his phone pings. And on the screen, a message addresses him as Mr. Fan Yi and gives him a new mission. Our hero is surprised they've already figured out his identity as Fan Yi. His eyes then flash with pure fury as he reads the mission details. Because the job is simply to eliminate himself and his grandfather from the Yi family. So, he accepts the job and sets up a meeting to collect the 1 billion reward, and decides it's time to collect another debt. The scene then cuts to a swanky nightclub in the middle of the city. Inside is Wang Chao, the head of the Wang family, kicking back with a couple of girls. However, a goon shows up with the news that Wu Lolong failed to grab Su Yikshu. Wang Chao flies into a rage, kicks the table, and calls his men useless pieces of garbage. The underling explains that it was Yan who showed up and took care of Wu Lolong. The villain says that fool is a nobody, but now they can't mess with the Su family anymore. But the conversation stops when they notice a stranger has entered the room. A Wang Chao yells annoyed, asking who the intruder is and who let him in. And our protagonist, with a smirk on his face, says he's come to volunteer for a little job. So, Wang Chao starts screaming, asking who the intruder is and who let him in, furious that this is happening with his men right there. With a sinister smile, our MC says the guys outside have already been taken out by him, which makes Wang Chao wonder what the heck is going on. The Wang family boss and his goons are completely shocked, and the villain demands to know who he is and what he wants. Our boy then gets closer, smiling, and tells Master Wang not to be alarmed, because he's there to help take down the Su family. Our MC says they might have already heard his name, and he introduces himself as Fan Yi. The goons then realize he's the Grandmaster who wiped out the Zhou family. Wang Chao is overjoyed and says it's great to have Grandmaster Fan on the case, asking what he wanted in return. With a serious look, our MC asks for 2 billion and says he can make the Su group disappear from this world, which leaves Wang Chao floored. The Wang family boss yells that 2 billion is way too much, since the clan's total worth is only 10 billion, so he asks how he could possibly get that kind of money. Our hero gets furious and asks if they're trying to insult him by not having 2 billion. One of the goons begs the Grandmaster not to get ahead of himself, saying they wouldn't dare. Wang Kao then remembers that Chairman Liu, from the provincial capital, promised that if they eliminated the Su family, the Su group would be theirs, so 2 billion wouldn't be such a high price after all. However, he breaks into a cold sweat, wondering if the Liu family would actually keep their promise, or if Fan Yi would pull the same stunt on the Wang family that he did on the Jaos. With that in mind, he decides to head home to raise the money, figuring that having a Grandmaster make a move was an honor, and the best tactic out of 36 was to just bail. But before he can even leave, something flies by his face at high speed, scaring the daylights out of him. He realizes the object was a plastic straw and hits the floor, apologizing to the Grandmaster, admitting he was wrong. Our MC calmly sits down and says it's a good thing he knows he was wrong. Our hero coolly places the straw in his glass and warns him that he has exactly 10 minutes to get the cash. Sitting on the couch cool as a cucumber, he orders that the money must be raised right here, right now. The desperate villain calls his dad, screaming and asking for an urgent 2 billion because he just hired the dangerous Grandmaster. As Wong rushes his dad on the phone, our MC smirks, thinking he'd never forgive anyone who messed with his wife. The phone dings, confirming the transfer, and the coward asks, trembling, if the money went through and if he can leave now. But Yi-Fan gives him a terrifying smile and says there's no rush, his business might be settled, but our hero's isn't. Suddenly, he starts peeling the skin off his own face, leaving Wong Chao confused and asking what he's doing. Revealing his true face, our MC says he's here to settle the score for them trying to take out his wife. The villain hits the deck in shock as he recognizes Yi-Fan, screaming in despair as he realizes he was just playing dumb all this time. Breaking into a cold sweat, he remembers that 5 years ago, our hero was already a monster, and now he seemed even more powerful and invincible. On his knees, he begs for mercy, saying he was just following orders and swears he'd work like a dog for the young master. With his eyes glowing red, Yi-Fan replies that he doesn't need slaves, but he will borrow something from him. Full of hope, the coward says he'd lend him anything and give him whatever he wanted to get out of there alive. The mood gets heavy as a shadow covers our MC's face, and he finishes his sentence, saying what he wanted was to borrow his life, and just like that, our hero delivers a fatal blow, taking out the enemy without a shred of pity. Even in his last moments, Wong Chao curses our hero for fooling everyone with his act. Swearing he won't let it go, he tries to make a call to Lu Ran of the Lu family to get revenge. However, our hero spots the guy's sneaky move and watches him with a furious glare. He then grabs him by the neck, tossing him into the air as the cell phone clatters to the floor. Yi-Fan says he's still trying to pull tricks and unleashes his energy, completely disintegrating him. In an instant, the villain is reduced to ashes by our boy's powerful technique. With the gang leader eliminated, our hero wastes no time and gets ready for the next ones. He turns to the goons and warns them that now it's their turn, as they all beg for their lives. Ignoring their pleas for mercy, he crouches down amidst the villain's ashes. Our MC picks up the cell phone that had fallen to the floor, with the call still active. He looks at the device's cracked screen and quickly types something before moving on. Then, our boy lets the phone drop to the floor and walks out of the room without looking back. Far away in the Wong family mansion, Chairman Wang Zhong receives a message. He becomes furious upon learning that his son has been kidnapped and orders everyone to get ready to rescue him. With a look of pure hatred, he swears he'll find out who was responsible for kidnapping his only heir. At the hospital, our hero asks his wife Yixu if she's awake yet. She soon opens her eyes, still a bit confused by everything that happened. Yi-Fan hugs her tightly and says he's so happy she's okay. This surprises the young woman, and she calls out her beloved's name. She finally remembers that it was little Fan who saved her from the thugs. On top of that, she recalls the scene and thinks about how handsome he looked in that moment. Meanwhile, Yi-Fan says the doctor told him she just needs to rest for a bit. But the girl touches his face and tells him she can't go home just yet. The company is about to launch a product, and she has a ton of work to do. But right after, she picks up her cell phone with a very serious expression. However, she receives the news that her product's formula has been leaked. To make matters worse, a man walks into the room saying he just got the news too. He then shows her his phone, revealing a live broadcast. On it, the Lee family is presenting a beauty pill they've been researching for years. Seeing this, Yixu is outraged and calls them shameless crooks. Yixu laments that the company poured all its resources into that formula, and the business was counting on it to get back on its feet. Chairman Xia says that many partners have boycotted the group, and without a good product, the company won't last much longer. She wipes away her tears and decides she needs to do something to save everyone. She then announces she's going to the company and leaves Yi-Fan with Chairman Xia, as our hero tries to call out to her. Our boy thinks to himself that it's just a pill formula, and that any recipe he could pull out of his head would already be incredible. However, Xia asks how she would ever believe him, and Yi-Fan knows that to everyone else, he's still just a fool. But suddenly our MC gets a brilliant idea to solve everything. He remembers that Linglong wanted a doctor to treat him, and Dr. Lei Qianju is a big name. With a confident smile, he says there won't be any problem at all in convincing the doctor. Just then, his cell phone starts ringing, and he answers the call. On the other end of the line, his ex-fiancée, Yufei, is crying and asks for a favor, and he wonders why she sounds like this. Ye-Fan then asks what happened and who bullied her, because he'd beat them up to defend her. The young woman replies with a choked voice that he's the only one who ever treated her with sincerity. She's sitting on her bed, looking very sad and vulnerable about the situation. Then she reveals that her uncle wants to force her to marry Li Yunyang and begs Yi Fan to save her. Hearing Li Yunyang's name again makes our hero furious, since the guy already harmed the Ye family and now wants to force himself on Yu Fei. With a smile, he tells his ex-fiancée to come pick him up because he'd help her teach that guy a lesson. A short time later, Yu Fei finds him, and the two stand in front of a building. With a sad face, she calls him Brother Fan, seeming regretful. She explains that her uncle forced her to break off the engagement because her father needed money for his treatment. Our hero remembers that her father had an accident, and her uncle now controls the company and the family's finances. She declares her love for him, saying she has always loved him and waited for him for 5 long years. He then thinks that despite everything, he has a greater purpose for being there and decides to just go with the flow. Suddenly, someone announces that the bride is arriving and asks Master Li to go receive her. With a confident smile, our hero takes her by the arm and says it's showtime. Li Yunyang receives congratulations on his engagement, thinking to himself that Xuan Yufei will have to get into his bed. Furthermore, he plans to seize the power behind her mother, and then the Liu family will be nothing. Suddenly, the bride approaches and calls his name while he's already fantasizing about her. But he's shocked to see that it's actually Yi Fan accompanying the girl. Li Yunyang then gets furious and asks why she brought that fool to the party. At that moment, a voice interrupts him, and his friend Fugi gets out of a car, looking very annoyed. He warns him that his brother's name is Yi Fan and threatens to slap him if he calls him a fool again. But Li Yunyang scoffs, saying the Yi family is finished, and the old man and the fool would be kicking the bucket soon. Without a second thought, Fugui keeps his promise and delivers a hard slap right across the groom's face. The groom falls to the ground screaming in anger, while Fugui stares him down with a menacing look. The big guy thinks to himself that he's not afraid of a piece of trash with no martial arts strength like him. Yu Fei's uncle appears and asks them to calm down since it was a day for celebration. He thinks that the important guests have arrived and wonders how she got involved with them. The uncle tells them to stop the commotion and go inside to sort things out with the guests. But before that, he glares at Yu Fei and warns her to think very carefully about what she was doing. In the party hall, the announcer says the couple is entering, and everyone turns to look. However, the guests wonder why the fool from the Ye family is with the bride. The gossip starts, and everyone comments that the Li family is being completely embarrassed. The groom's father then questions Yu Fei's uncle, who claims to know nothing. With that, the uncle goes up to his niece and asks what she thinks she's doing. But the young woman completely ignores him, as she is determined to go through with her plan. He gets irritated and tells her to apologize to Master Li for her ignorance. However, she and our hero walk up to the stage, and she announces that she has something to say. There, she reveals that the idea to break things off with the Yi family came from her uncle. Furthermore, Yu Fei says they are childhood sweethearts and asks for everyone's blessing. Our MC thinks that if she'd had this courage before, she wouldn't be in this situation. At this, the groom, Li Yunyang, becomes furious and crushes the flowers he was holding. Then he screams, asking how she dares to ask for a blessing with another guy at their engagement party. The guests comment that the Li family is going through a major humiliation with this betrayal. The tension is so thick that someone even drops a wine glass, shattering it on the floor. The groom's father is furious and demands an explanation from Yufi's uncle for the humiliation. The uncle tries to calm things down, saying it's all just a misunderstanding. He turns to his niece and yells that she's getting herself into huge trouble. But Yu Fei says she has thought it all through, and marrying the groom he arranged would be the real huge trouble. She looks at our hero and says she brought him so that everyone would know the truth. Crying, she declares that she will love him forever, even if he's a fool for his entire life. RMC thinks that she's trying to use this chance to climb the ladder of power, but it's too late. The groom Li Yunyang is speechless at the couple's audacity and spits on the floor. Furious, he calls them an adulterous couple and orders his security guards to grab them. He yells that if he doesn't teach them a lesson, the Li family will lose all its standing in the city. Li Yunyang gets annoyed with Xuan Yufei, saying he treated her well, but she insists on sticking with some loser. But before he can get another word out, he gets rocked by a powerful punch. The force of the blow sends him flying backward with no chance to react. Wang Fugai shows up and warns him that he'll get a fistful every time he insults RMC. The guy's dad jumps in, yelling at Wang Fugui that not even Odd, his own father, would dare disrespect him. The old man orders his men to teach Fugui a good lesson. Ye Fan notices the goons are tough and worries his friend might not be able to handle them all. But a new guy arrives at the party and asks why they can't just talk things out. The playboy's dad gets angry at the newcomer's audacity. Next thing you know, the mustached man pulls out a large caliber gun and slaps it on the table to make a point. Mustache guy says this is what civilization looks like, and with it, he can solve whatever he wants. With the gun pointed at them, the father and son completely lose their nerve and scream that they give up. After settling the beef, Mustache Guy turns to Yi Fan and invites him to head back. The ex-fiancé is stunned to see that even though everyone thinks Yi Fan is a fool, he has some seriously powerful connections. However, as our hero is leaving with his ex-wife, one of the extras grabs her by the arm and tells her to wait. Her uncle threatens her, reminding her of her father's situation at the hospital. Xuan's father is indeed in critical condition, with someone ready to pull the plug on his life support. Xuan panics and screams, asking Juan Junggu what on earth he's doing. The evil uncle says she forced his hand and reveals that her father was given a poison to keep him from ever waking up. Heartbroken, she remembers that this man is her own biological brother. Juan Junggu couldn't care less and says it's his turn to control the company as Xuan collapses to her knees, utterly defeated. He gives her 10 seconds to agree to marry Li Yunyang, or her father is going to kick the bucket. Xuan is crushed on the floor because she thought she could finally be with Yi Fan again. She looks over at our protagonist, who is completely confused by the whole situation. Li Yunyang takes the opportunity to mock Yi Fan, who is walking over to his ex-fiancée to see what's wrong. Li Fan is useless. Yunyang moves in to strike him, but Xuan Yufei throws herself in front of our hero to protect him, screaming at Li Yunyang to stop immediately. Yi Fan is visibly surprised by his ex-wife's protective gesture. The furious playboy shouts that Yi Fan will pay for ruining everything and that he was already planning to attack the Ye family anyway. He calls Yi Fan reckless as all of Yi Fan's friends look on stunned. Yi Fan thinks it's better if his friends stay out of it, because he's going to take care of this playboy personally. So our MC says it's time to teach the Li family a lesson. Li Yunyang charges forward with a punch, yelling for Yi Fan to stop hiding behind a woman. As the punch flies toward her, Xuan Yufei panics, screaming for him to stop. But our hero slips past Xuan and scoffs at his rival, asking if that's all he's got. Seeing the blow about to land, the ex-fiancée worriedly screams Yi Fan's name. Wang Fugi tries to help but is held back from intervening. With a cold stare, our protagonist prepares to counter the enemy's attack. In a swift move, Yi Fan dodges Li Yunyang's blow with zero difficulty. He easily catches his rival's fist, stopping the attack completely. Yi Fan asks if the playboy was trying to swat a mosquito on his face. Discreetly, our protagonist sticks a golden needle into Li Yunyang's arm. Inside his body, it absorbs a corrosive green energy. Li Yunyang panics and wonders what the heck is happening. He backs away scared and asks what Yi Fan did, but our hero plays dumb, continuing his idiot act. Li Yunyang says his arm hurts and accuses our hero of playing innocent. But when he looks at his arm, he only sees a small red dot and wonders how it can hurt so much. Yi Fan thinks to himself that his needle not only carries martial arts force, but also a corrosive power. The playboy threatens to finish him, but our protagonist hides behind Xuan, faking fear. Xuan falls for the act and defends him again, yelling that he should be ashamed for blaming someone in Yi Fan's condition. The guy's father tells him to stop and not to get his hands dirty on his engagement day. The parents of the bride and groom exchange tense glances as the situation spirals out of control. Won Jungyu approaches his niece and warns her that the 10 seconds are up and she needs to decide. She says she won't marry him because she believes in Yi Fan, but her uncle reveals that the Ye family will be destroyed with her father's passing. Plus he can't guarantee our protagonist's safety. Hearing the threat, Xuan gets desperate and decides not to drag our protagonist into this mess. In despair, she drops to her knees and cries out that she'll get married, begging them not to hurt anyone. The uncle smiles victoriously and tells her to explain her decision to all the guests present. So Xuan gets up and goes with her uncle, leaving our protagonist behind, completely lost. With tears in her eyes, she looks back and apologizes, saying she has no other choice and that she's making the same mistake all over again. She asks Yi Fan's friends to get him out of there safely. Xuan says she has no luck and that she and our protagonist are just not fated to be together. As she walks away, Yi Fan's friends watch him, unsure of what to do. With a serious expression on his face, our protagonist seems to be plotting something. Suddenly, he points at Li Yunyang and yells that the guy is sick and can't get married. Then our hero turns his back and says the situation isn't fun anymore because someone's about to check out permanently. Juan Junggu calls him a fool and says all he can do is make sarcastic remarks. Wang Fugai asks if they're just going to let it go, but the other friend trusts that with Yi Fan's skills, the rival is already toast. On stage, Xuan Yufei apologizes to the guests, saying she lost her composure. The strong friend shakes Yi Fan and says if he gives the word, he'll go grab Xuan right back. But our protagonist ignores him and calmly starts a countdown from 3. When the countdown hits 1, Li Yunyang's expression on stage changes to pure terror. Suddenly, the playboy drops to the floor like a sack of bricks, foaming at the mouth and scaring everyone. His father runs over in a panic, screaming for an ambulance. Li Yunyang is on the floor, convulsing and foaming like a sick dog. Won Junggu checks on the little playboy and announces in shock that young Master Li isn't breathing. With a victorious smirk, our protagonist finishes his countdown at 0. Then Yi Fan turns and starts to walk away, leaving Xuan Yufei completely baffled. He looks back and gives her an koke, sign showing her it was all part of the plan.